All right, 7th graders, we are now working on our final drawing. And your final drawing is going to be your blueprint or your plan for building your car, for the actual car that you're going to build and create. So you need a piece of paper, preferably a blank piece of paper. You need a piece of paper. You should have a pencil because you will probably or you will be erasing, and you should have a ruler as well. And because one of the things that you need to do for your final drawing, if you choose, is to make sure that you have measurements on there. And if it's a blueprint and it has measurements, you should be able to give that to somebody else, and they would be able then to kind of replicate it or create it. Okay? So the first thing that you'll need to do is you need to decide which vehicle you're going to make. So you're going to look at your top and side view sketches that you had done before, your multi-view drawings. So I've got a couple different versions. I've got this one right here. Here's the top and the side view. Here's another one, top and side view. I had actually done 4. So there you can see there's a couple others. And I think the one that I want to create that I think is going to be the fastest is going to be this one right here. All right? So make that decision, pause this video, and make your decision about which vehicle you are going to create. Now that I've made my final decision, I am going to start working on my final drawing. And so, as you know, everybody needs to do one final drawing. You could do 2 possible final drawings if you would like. And that would be something that you could aspire to do because it's always good to have a couple different options in case one of them doesn't work out. But everybody needs to do one. Our final drawing is going to be done to a 1-to-1 scale. Okay? And what that means is that a 1-to-1 scale, it means in the drawing, 1 unit of measurement is the same as 1 unit of measurement in the real world, in real life. Okay? So if we're measuring in inches, 1 inch on paper is going to be the same as 1 inch on the real car. Okay? A 1-to-2 scale would mean that 1 inch on paper would be the same as 2 inches in real life. Okay? That's the scale, but we're going to do a full scale, a 1-to-1 scale drawing. So we're going to draw the exact size of the car. And we want to do a final drawing that also is multi-view. So I want to draw a top view, and I would like to draw a side view as well. Now we want this to actually be full size. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by drawing a rectangle or 2 rectangles that simulate the block of wood that you would start with if you're going to build. So we want to go back to kind of our specifications. And what you see highlighted in pink here, you should have this in your specification chart. Number 1 says the dragster will be constructed from a block of pine wood that's 1.5 inches wide by 7 1/4 inches long by 1 3/4 inches tall. So those are the dimensions that we're going to use. This information should be in this specification chart. You should have this completed. That was something that we did in a previous class, and we went through it in class as well. So we should know those dimensions. All right, I pre-wrote in the measurements, but this is what we are going to do. For the top view, if we're looking at a car from the top, okay, the top view is going to show us how long the car is from the front to the back, and it's also going to show us the width from side to side. Okay, so here we have the length would be of the block of wood that we're going to start with is 7 1/4 inches long, and the width from side to side would be 1.5 inches. Okay, from the side view, we can see, if I look at this car from the side, we can see from front to back, so that's length. So again, 7 1/4 inches long, and we can also see the height from the bottom up to the top, and the height that we're going to start with is 1 3/4 inch. So let's go ahead and measure these out. Okay, so if I use my ruler, I'm going to line that up. So 7 1/4. Here's 7 inches. 1/4 is 4/16. We should know those equivalent fractions. So if I go to the 7 and I count 1, 2, 3, 4, there is my 1/4. So I'm going to then use my ruler and draw a straight line. There's a line that's 7 1/4. I turn my paper sideways. I can measure 1.5. So half is halfway in between 1 and 2. 1.5 is. So I can draw my line. I will do the same thing over on this side. 1.5. And then all I need to do for this last kind of 7 1/4 line is just connect those lines. So there, I now have my rectangle from the top view. Pause this video and create your rectangle for your side view, which is 7 1/4 inches by 1 3/4 inches. And 3/4 we should know is 12/16. 12/16, so you just have to count 12 of those little marks on your ruler in between the 1 and the 2. So go ahead and make that rectangle. Pause the video and make that rectangle. We should now have our starting point, a side view, and the top view of what our starting kind of block of wood is going to look like. So if this is our block of wood, if I'm looking at this from the side, you can see that that fits over it perfectly. I know this camera angle isn't perfect, so you can't quite see it. But if I turn this then to look at it from the top view, again, I see that this lines up almost correctly. Whoops, there we go. Lines up with those lines. So there's the top view. I can turn it sideways. There is the side view, and it lines up perfectly. So that's our starting point. The next thing we need to do is we need to account for the air hole. So this car is going to be powered by air. There's going to be an air tube that fits into the back of this car that's going to blow air through it and push this car down the track. So we need to know exactly where that hole is so that we don't cut into it and have the air just blow right through the car. Then the car won't go anywhere. Okay, so we need to account for that. And so we're going to do that by looking at our specification chart. Okay, where is that air hole? And so you need to go through your specification chart and find the information for that air hole, where that is going to be located. I've pre-marked this to show you where we are going to measure and what we're going to do. So if you look at your specification chart, from the top view, again, the top view shows side to side, from one side to the other. From the top view, we are going to, the air hole is going to be drilled right in the middle. So we're going to measure over 3/4 of an inch from one of the sides. This should put it right in the middle. The depth of the air hole, if we look at our specification chart, is 2 inches. So I'm going to take my ruler. When I measure 3/4 of an inch, I did that already. I'm going to measure 3/4 of an inch up, make a little mark. Then you're going to measure 2 inches from that mark to show the depth of the air hole. Now we are going to draw a dotted line. We're going to draw a dotted line because that shows that it's a hidden line, that we can't actually see it. You can't actually, from the top view, actually see where that hole is, but we know it's there. Okay, we drilled that hole, we know it's there. So a dotted line represents a hidden line that we know is there, but we can't see it. When we look at this from the side view, where is the air hole going to be drilled? So from the side view, okay, the specifications tell us that we need to measure 9/16 from the bottom of the wood, and then the depth again is 2 inches. So use your ruler, measure 9/16, that's just 9 of those little marks. Make a mark where that is. And then the same thing as we did from the top view, measure 2 inches. We can't see that air hole from the side, so we're just going to put a dotted line. So go ahead and pause this video and get your paper looking like this. Alright, one other thing that I should say that I forgot to mention is the air hole. Where is the air hole drilled? Well, it's drilled in the back of the car. So I'm just going to label my drawing that this is the back of the car, and then this would be the front. Okay, so if you haven't gotten that dotted lines in there representing where the air hole is going to get drilled, go ahead and do that right now. Pause the video. The next step is to figure out what the diameter is of the air hole and draw that so we actually have a representation of where that hole is going to be drilled so we don't cut through that. Now, on our specification chart, so if we go back again to our specification chart and we look, the diameter of the air hole is actually 29/64 of an inch. Now just for our ease and to make sure that we do have enough room around that air hole anyways so we don't cut through it, we're going to estimate that that's about a 1/2 inch. So what we can do, if we have the midpoint of our hole, the center point of the hole that we're going to drill, 1/2 an inch is 1/4 plus 1/4. So all we need to do is measure 1/4 of an inch above, 1/4 of an inch below, and then kind of create where that hole is going to be drilled. Okay, so the same thing again on the side view. If the diameter is 29/64, which we're going to say is about 1/2, measure 1/4, 1/4 of an inch above, 1/4 of an inch below, and draw that dotted line in there. So I just measured, don't just guess, but actually use your ruler. So that's 4/16, 1, 2, 3, 4, that's right there, that's 1/4 of an inch. I can go ahead, just do it this way, 1/4 of an inch above, 1/4 of an inch below, and then we know the depth of the air hole is 2 inches. So again, we can't see the air hole, so we're going to draw dotted lines. Draw light dotted lines over here underneath that as well. And now I can connect those. Okay, so this represents the air hole that is drilled into my car. So go ahead and do that for the side view and do that for the top view. Pause the video, and then we'll pick up from there. Alright, so our air holes should look like this, dotted lines just kind of showing where that is. Alright, so the next step now is to actually design your car. And so to design our car, what we're going to do is we're going to pretend, so this is like our block of wood right here. Okay, there's the side view, there's the top view. We're going to pretend this is our block of wood. Now we're going to make some cuts. Okay, so let's decide, let's say that on my specification chart, I think that I can cut the length down to 6 inches. So let's just say that I think the car will go faster if it's shorter. Well, you might think differently. Okay, I think it might go faster if it's shorter. So I want to make this only 6 inches long. Well, if you remember, we measured this, and this was 7 1/4 inches. Okay, so if I want to make it 6 inches, make sure I start at the back because I don't want to cut this off, because then that would mean the air hole is too small. I can go here and I can measure 6 inches. I can do the same thing over here on this side to give myself 2 kind of reference points to connect those lines. And now I'm going to say my car is 6 inches, so I can cut that off. This is not part of my car anymore. I want to do the same thing to the top up here. So now you can see I did the same thing to the top up here. This is not part of my car. The top view and the side view should be the same length. My car should be the same length from the top and from the side, because the length didn't change of that car. So now in my drawing, what I want to do is I want to erase, I want to get rid of all of this stuff. Okay, so if you are changing the length of your car, pause the video right now, change the length of your car, and then erase those lines that are not part of your car anymore, because I'm cutting off that 1.25 inches right here to make my car a little bit shorter. So go ahead and pause that video and measure what you want the length of your car to be, somewhere between 6 inches and 7 1/4 inches, and then erase the parts that you don't need. Alright, you can see that I have erased the top and the bottom, the part that I don't need, so this is now 6 inches long. If I go back to my multi-view drawing that I'm going to create, now I want to make my car look like this. So what I'm going to have to do then, if I just take the top view right here, I'm going to have to make it look kind of like this. So if I want to draw in like this, I'm going to go something like that. Looks like it's got a straight line there. Now this is not perfect. You'll take a little bit more time on this. I want this to go down and that to be rounded a little bit. Something like that. I'm going to make this symmetrical. It probably shouldn't be crooked. Okay, it kind of looks like that. I might need to make changes. You're going to spend more time kind of making this nice and neat. But you can kind of see what I'm doing here, making it kind of symmetrical, look like my, oof, that's really rough. I apologize for that. But making it look like my drawing did. And this is where you'll want to use a ruler and kind of measure everything as it's actually supposed to be. Now, as I was drawing, I decided that I was going to make some more changes because I didn't like what I was doing before. Notice how you can see erase marks from what I erased. So at the end, I am left with a car body that looks exactly like I am going to create. And one of the things that you don't have to add these measurements, but if we think you should, that was one of those things that was in orange, you should add measurements. You can see that I have length, so I measured the car was 6 inches long. You can see I still have the air hole here. The height over here was 1 3/16 of an inch, 1.5 inches total from the bottom. And so you can see that I added some of those measurements to my car. And this is what you should do for your drawing. You should aspire to do 2 drawings like this.